Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't, don't forget, please, to download the conference program using the QR code that's outside on the banner. And you will have access to the full program where you will see the full bios of each moderator and presenter here for the conference. And I hope you've had the opportunity to go into the exhibition hall as well as to visit the craft artisans in the rotunda. And don't forget, during the next break, which will be lunch, on the outside we have e-bikes, so please go and have a ride and to see how that sustainable type of transportation, those initiatives from our vendor e-bikes, or sustainable vendor e-bikes. Just a few reminders before we get into our next session. Wait, before I get to reminders, I just want to, I've lost her. All right, when she comes back into the room, I will acknowledge her. Okay, so a few reminders. This evening, when we finished our conference sessions, we have our Sustainable Tourism Awards, and that will also that will be held in Annandale Falls. I believe that's the correct name. Did I correctly pronounce that? My Grenadian counterparts, thank you. And I'll tell you a bit more about the transportation logistics a little later on. We also have, and that's also our closing out function. So the Sustainable Tourism Awards and the conference closing function will be held at Annandale Falls. And everyone is invited. Please come out. We also want to mention that tomorrow we have our study tours, and we're really looking forward to that. Kind of looking at the practical side of things. We've sat down in here, we're having wonderful discussions, and it's good to go out there and see what we call sustainability at work or in action. Okay, so join us for our study tours tomorrow. Please make sure you sign up through the Secretariat. And tomorrow we have an exclusive Royal Caribbean on board experience. And I want to recognize, and I'm not seeing her, so Wendy stepped out. Okay, I'm going to do this again because I want you to see her because we really want to extend our gratitude to Royal Caribbean for what will be a wonderful onboard experience with them tomorrow. Okay, ladies and gents. We are back to our P's. This morning we had great insights from our market and industry partners out of the UK, the US, speaking to our partners here in Grenada. And then we had our ministerial roundtable, where we had the opportunity to hear about linkages, initiatives that are taking place in Grenada, and the expectations that we will work together in the region to ensure that tourism is holding hands with all of the other industries, be it agriculture, manufacturing, education, etc., whom we are in this business of tourism together, with whom we are in this business of tourism together. So we have another roundtable coming to you right now as we speak to the P of prosperity. And this roundtable is an illustrious gathering of the primary donor agencies, regional and international development organizations, and financial institutions that play a role in supporting the sustainable development of the Caribbean region. And we have panelists who are going to delve into the complexities of financing sustainable tourism initiatives. And they will clarify the opportunities, the processes, the regulations, and guidelines that are essential for accessing funding. So I now want to invite to join us on the platform the panelists for Pathways to Prosperity for Sustainable Futures. This is our Sustainable Tourism Financing Donor Roundtable that will be moderated by none other than Amanda Charles, the Sustainable Tourism Specialist at the Caribbean Tourism Organization. And Amanda, as you all know, is there anyone in this room that doesn't know Amanda Charles? Raise your hand. See, we know you know Amanda. But Amanda she leads the work of the Sustainable Tourism Division at the Caribbean Tourism Organization. She steers the design and implementation of the Sustainable Tourism Work Program that's aimed at enhancing the growth, competitiveness, and sustainability of our regional tourism industry. So I welcome to the stage our moderator and panelists for our prosperity session. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome them.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be moderating this very important session on sustainable tourism financing. I do have to advise that we are awaiting the arrival of one of our panelists. As you know, some persons are still enjoying the coffee break, so bear with us just a minute, but I will begin by setting the context for this panel. So as we are all aware, financing and access to funding stand out as significant challenges to the sustainable development of Caribbean tourism. Despite growing awareness of the importance of sustainability, securing adequate financial resources to implement sustainable tourism initiatives remain a persistent challenge. Many projects require substantial upfront investments, including for infrastructure, to support infrastructure and capacity building, to develop the conservation efforts and community development goals, to achieve community development goals more effectively. Limited access to financing acts as a barrier, particularly for small and medium-sized enterprises, community-based initiatives, as well as public and private sector entities with competing priorities. Oftentimes, navigating complex financing mechanisms, which Sharon mentioned, and meeting very stringent eligibility criteria are added impediments. Under the prosperity pillar of the 5 Ps, I am again pleased to moderate what we have titled Pathways to Prosperity for Sustainable Futures, a Sustainable Tourism Financing Roundtable, and I am joined by a distinguished group of some of our primary donors, development organizations, and financial institutions that play a role in supporting the sustainable development of the Caribbean region. And with that, I am now pleased to introduce our first panelist, Dr. Louise Ward, who heads the Global Tourism Team at the World Bank Group in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Dr. Ward, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a nice cup of coffee, ready to hear about financing. I was told to demystify World Bank financing for sustainable tourism. I'll do my best to explain kind of how it works, what we do. Happy to take any questions afterwards. Obviously, it's a relatively small time to demystify all that, but I will do my best. First of all, our vision as a World Bank group is to create a world free of poverty on a livable planet. The livable planet piece is important. I would also add swimmable planet. I had the pleasure of swimming with 5 turtles this morning, and it's incredibly important that we protect our planet for future generations. So well done, Grenada, for that. The turtles are alive and well on Annecy Beach. The second thing I want to say about this vision is that it works through governments. So I'm sorry for those of you who thought that I'm coming with heavy pockets. Actually, I'm wearing a dress, so I don't have pockets. But the World Bank is a multilateral development agency that finances governments to do the right thing and help the private sector and help the environment to sustain tourism. So in the global tourism team, which sits in a part of the World Bank that supports the private sector, we have 2 main roles. One is global knowledge, and the other is operations. And I'll talk about both of those because I think they are both relevant to this group. First on our knowledge work. So the knowledge work is around collecting data. We work a lot with UN tourism. We work with WTTC. We publish a quarterly newsletter. You can use this QR code if you like to access our intranet where you can get various different reports that the World Bank has done. We set up a Blue Tourism portal. You could look up bluetourismportal.org, which has about 500 resources on blue tourism. We want to disseminate information. There's too many reports sitting on the shelf around the place that people don't know are there. So we have a strong role in dissemination of information as well. Particularly during COVID, we did a lot of that work. We do regional studies, country-based studies. You can see an example of St. Martin Tourism Recovery Strategy that we did as well. And this knowledge work is often instigated by tourism specialists at the bank that see a problem that needs more analysis. There's no reason why it can't be instigated more by client countries. We'd love to see more countries saying, hey, World Bank, we have a knowledge problem. We don't have data on the cost of tourism's impact on our coral reefs, or the cost of supplying water to the tourism industry. Come with those problems. We would love to help. We are a knowledge bank as much as we are a finance bank. We are, in this vein, working on a Caribbean tourism study that hopes to take a slightly different perspective on sustainability. And I thank CTO and CHTA for support, as well as many of you in the room we've been in contact about this study. We're looking at 3 particular tourism segments: cruise, resort, and adventure experiences. We're going to study a number of different benchmark countries. What are they doing in their policies to enable sustainability? So what is, for example, Singapore doing in cruise that makes it more sustainable? How is Dominican Republic's cruise working? And what does perhaps Antigua and Barbuda and Barbados have to share with the rest of the region? Similarly, on resort tourism, we're looking at Mexico, Turkey, Dominican Republic, and doing a deep dive in Jamaica and St. Lucia. For adventure, the region needs to attract that T group of visitors that Abta talked about, right? They are interested in adventure, experiential tourism. So what does the region need to put in place? I mean, one of the reasons that adventure tourism took off so well in New Zealand, you know what it was? Insurance. Why? Adventure tourists have accidents. You know, what about a regional insurance platform for adventure tourism? There are other things that need to be in place for it to work. They also really supported the development of risky sports and different sports that enable people to set up businesses. So what about dive tourism in Belize? What have they learned? What has Dominica learned about tourism? So, as well as this regional country studies, we also, over the last year, have been looking at 10 years of tourism operations of the World Bank. What have we learned? Came up with this little graphic to kind of help us figure out what is going on and why are we not reinvesting in the tourism asset. I'll explain it briefly. I could talk about this for hours, but I'm happy to speak to anyone later who wants to understand this more. On the, what will be, I guess, I'm thinking if it's your left or your right, because I have it different ways, but I think it's your left side. We have the engine, if you like, of tourism. We tend to focus on demand and supply. Demand, you have your marketing, that's pushing your spending, your expenditure, and excuse me for the little bit of the masterclass here. And on the supply side, you have your investment that's driving hotels, tour operators. We do less on the left side, the assets and enabling policies. The assets, your mountains, your reef, your waterfalls. The enabling policies, the things that make it all work. But those things all have to work in order to deliver development impact. And when we talk about development impact, we often just talk about the jobs, the direct, right? We heard the ministers talking about farmers and fishermen, the indirect. We need to think about the things that make those two work together. What about the social and environmental externalities? Though these are the impacts, and they can be both positive and negative. We heard about Grenada's Tourism Enhancement Fund investing in an underwater sculpture park. That's an example of reinvesting in the asset. I asked this question this morning to the operators of the hotel and the cruise line, because we don't see enough of reinvesting in the asset. There is a silent, if you like, reduction in the quality of that asset, and that has to be paid for. Tourism is not like a mine where you take stuff out and you see the hole afterwards, and you know you can't keep going down and down forever, right? But silently, that asset is reducing in quality, which creates that feedback loop, which means that the engine is not going to work so well on the left side unless policies are in place to protect that asset. Enough on knowledge. So operations, we have our portfolio in tourism has tripled since over the last 10 years. We have 62 operations around the world. They're worth about $6.6 billion of tourism lending. And they're in kind of three groups. One is around tourism development, tourism policies, planning, visa policies, things like that. Environmental projects that really invest in the asset, the forest, the reef, the cultural asset. Here at St. George's Fort, for instance, is under restoration from a World Bank project. And then there's cross-cutting projects. What do I mean by cross-cutting? Those are projects that support a greater development impact. For example, I was out looking at things to buy. I wanted to get some nutmeg oil because that sounds great, right? No digital payments. Not one of the vendors outside accepts any kind of Apple Pay, Venmo, Zelle. I gave them a number of different options. Not happening, right? That's not really the heart of tourism. That's a cross-cutting issue. That's a finance issue. And that is needed in order to make the linkages work. Tourism is everyone's business for a reason, but I digress. So that's our regional spread. So some examples, how does it all work? Here's a project that I'm working on in Cabo Verde. So average project size is around 40 million for a country project, but they range between about 5 and 500, I think, in the case of Indonesia, which is our largest project currently. So how does a World Bank lend to a government? So first of all, the government says, hey, we'd really like your help because we want to do X, or we want to protect Y, or we want to fix this digital payments thing. We want to expand our airport. We want to ensure that there's free movement of people between these islands. In this case, the problem was, hey, we've only got tourism on Sal and Boa Vista. We got 7 other islands that have really good product. How can we diversify? how can they increase visitor spending? It's also very dominated by one tour operator, TUI. So lots of lessons to be learned in the Caribbean on that. And what we're doing, we're investing in 70 kilometers of hiking trails in one of the other islands. We're looking at ferry terminals and trying to improve inter-island connectivity, as well as doing a marketing push. Those things have to happen on its own. But it's not enough to do hiking trails. And yes, the French tourists are spending money and they're coming hiking on Saint Antoine. But are they really reinvesting in the trails? So that's the governance aspects, the enabling policies. Here's another example, and then I will finish. So Jamaica, closer to Grenada. This is a rural economic development initiative where there is support for the government to develop rural enterprises. These are tourism enterprises and agricultural enterprises to try to fix some of those issues. There's a reason that the hotels aren't buying from the farmers, because they don't have 500 tomatoes tomorrow. And those tomatoes only come at some part of the year, and they don't have quality assured, and there's no cold storage, and the linkages don't work. So there's it's very complicated to make linkages work. And that's some of the things that we're trying to work on with these types of cross-cutting projects. So, and this is really my last slide. So what have we learned from looking at the 10 years of tourism projects? You got to invest in the asset first. We didn't always do that. That has to happen first. What is your main asset in Grenada? Is it that beach? How is tourism revenue going in to protect that beach for the future? Coordination is so key. Like the renewable energy, we can't have sustainable tourism if the energy people aren't in the room, if the cultural heritage people aren't in the room, if the water and sanitation people aren't on board. Often we get requests for doing random bits of public infrastructure. Why? It needs to be strategic and coordinated in order to ensure that demand increases and spending increases. Supporting MSMEs is critical, and they don't need handouts. They need technical assistance. Those people out there with their nutmeg oil, they need certification to know that that product is safe for export. They need digital payments. And we need much more data. So hard to find data on everything from what people spend when they get off a cruise ship to what people spend when they go to the health products store out there. So finally, cross-cutting reforms. So we need to see tourism really as an intergovernmental business in order to make the linkages work. It's not just about the Ministry of Tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Twinning Ward from the World Bank. And I think you've at least given us a glimpse, right, into the way the World Bank works and how you channel development support to the public sector in our countries. And some key takeaways for me personally is that, investing in asset protection comes first. Certainly support for MSMEs, they are the most vulnerable, and coordination is key, right, among the key sectors in the destination. And that was echoed in the ministerial dialogue that preceded this panel. I now have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Stacy Richards-Kennedy. Dr. Richards-Kennedy is the regional manager for the Caribbean for CAF, which is the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean. Dr. Kennedy, welcome.
Great. Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. I am really appreciative to the Caribbean Tourism Organization for the invitation to CAF to be here this morning, and of course to the wonderful government and people of Grenada for hosting us for this very important conference. This panel focusing on pathways to prosperity by supporting sustainable tourism in the Caribbean is, of course, one of utmost importance to all of us. And I'm going to just give a really quick overview of CAF. I know for many of you it's a new development bank that you're hearing about in many instances for the first time. So we're going to do a 101 on CAF. And firstly, it's the Spanish acronym for Corporación Andina de Fomento, which means the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean. It's a cooperative bank, and I'm just going to make sure these slides move with me. Try the other one. There we go. So it's a cooperative bank formed in 1968 by 6 countries in South America, and it was established as with a different model to the Bretton Woods institutions because it is a homegrown bank by Latin America and the Caribbean for Latin America and the Caribbean, and owned by countries of the global south to attend to their own development priorities and to strengthen regional integration for sustainable development, working closely with governments as well as the private sector, and respecting their own national procurement guidelines. CAF has a current project portfolio of roughly $34 billion across the region, and we've committed that by 2026, 40% of our financing will be dedicated to projects that are linked to climate change, biodiversity, and sustainability. So that's roughly $15 billion. Our credit rating continues to improve, and currently we're at a AA with Standards & Poor's and other agencies, international credit rating agencies. And over the past 56 years, we have expanded from 6 countries to now 24 shareholder countries, including 6 of them being in the English-speaking Caribbean. So just by way of anecdote, Trinidad and Tobago would have joined CAF 30 years ago, and then we were followed by Jamaica in 1999, and then Barbados in 2014. Just last week in Washington, D.C., on the margins of the World Bank and IMF meetings, we signed our agreements with Grenada and with the Bahamas, and then very soon also with Dominica and other countries that have committed to joining CAF. What we intend to do is continue to strengthen regional integration and channel increased development financing to the Caribbean. Moving on to our next slide, just to talk a bit about some of CAF's distinguishing features as highlighted by our clients. We're considered to be very agile, very flexible, very innovative, and client-focused. We firmly believe in the power of partnerships, and therefore we work closely with all of the other multilateral development banks, World Bank, IFC, of course the Caribbean Development Bank, the European Investment Bank, and so many other partners. Many of my colleague regional managers meet from time to time with me, and we try to ensure that we are aware of what each other is doing so that we can complement the pool of development financing that's available to member countries. So why do we view it as important to invest in tourism in the Caribbean? So as you know, there are tremendous benefits. The tourism sector contributes significantly and a much higher percentage across all of the key metrics that you see on the slide. A contribution to GDP, for example, employment, women's employment, youth employment, participation in exports and recovery of international travelers. But comparatively speaking, we have seen that the results for the Caribbean are not only higher than those in Latin America, but also higher than the world average based on data from the World Tourism Organization. And while the Caribbean represents just 0.3% of the world's land territory, we know that it is home to 10% of the world's biodiversity. And so the tourism industry represents both a tremendous opportunity, but also a huge responsibility to invest in regenerative and sustainable tourism, and to ensure that we work together to achieve the balance across the 5 Ps that we're talking about in this conference. Now, through an investment in tourism, countries contribute directly and indirectly to all of the global goals, and also to the fulfillment of commitments under key international agreements like the Paris Agreement. As a bank, CAF's support for the sustainable tourism sector is focused on channeling resources and transforming the sector to be 5 key things: more green, more inclusive, more innovative, more creative, and better equipped. And by green, we mean more environmentally responsible, through low carbon actions, a stronger focus on adaptation and resilience building, greater attention to the preservation of protected spaces, regeneration of ecosystems and biodiversity, support for conservation, and protection of our World Heritage sites. Some examples of projects, therefore, focus on renewable energy and stormwater management, sargassum control, coastal erosion, coral reef restoration, and this was mentioned yesterday by the Honorable Prime Minister in his opening remarks, development of eco-lodges, visitor centers, nature parks, etc. So this is to give you an idea of the types of projects. By inclusive, what do we mean? We're looking here at a focus on community-based tourism, accessibility for persons with disabilities, and adopting a gender lens in all of our projects. Some bankable projects here would include those that focus on increasing accessibility, of course, but also women's participation, promoting cultural tourism where persons get to interact and better understand each other's culture and customs. By innovative, we mean a focus on tourism products that use new technologies and digitalization of tourism processes and experiences. And my colleague from the World Bank talks about fintech, having fintech solutions integrated into tourism, and that's really very important. Now, for us, operations in this area would include initiatives that cut across all aspects of tourism, destination intelligence, use of augmented reality, and the creation and implementation of new products and services. Creative, we mean here greater focus on cultural tourism, and some bankable projects could include here museums. We need more and more museums across the Caribbean. We need theaters. We need to look at how we have interpretation centers, art and craft facilities, enhancements to food and gastronomy offering, and different supporting projects. And a focus on, when we look at our equipped, I'm trying to move the slides a little more quickly so that I can get through, lovely. So when we talk about being better equipped, we look here at the focus on resilient infrastructure. And this is one of the core areas of funding for CAF. We want to see more bankable projects that come in to support resilient infrastructure in tourist destinations, increase connectivity, strengthening safety in public spaces, and so on. So we're talking about an investment in ports, cruise ships, docks, renovation of public spaces, convention centers, air and ground transportation, terminals, and so on. So colleagues, let me wrap up very quickly by saying we do provide our funding, channeling this through a range of financial instruments. We work primarily with governments, but also with the private sector, and through development banks, national and regional development banks, as well as financial institutions that will allow the funding then to get to grassroots organizations. So with this brief introduction, I thank you for your attention and look forward to engaging with you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kennedy, for a very comprehensive overview of CAF. And certainly, I note the 5 areas that you have benchmarked for support for tourism in the region, including to support greening, inclusivity, innovation, the integration of the creative economy, and certainly for the sector to be better equipped. And I think these exactly mirror the 5 pillars that we have identified for a legacy of sustainability in Caribbean tourism. Thank you once again. I am now pleased to introduce Mrs. Petipha Louise, who is the Director of the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund. She's also Chair of the Network of Caribbean Chambers of Commerce, CARICHAM. She is the Executive Director and Secretary to the Board of Directors of the Grenada Chamber of Commerce, the Grenada Chamber of Industry and Commerce. So I'm very pleased to introduce Mrs. Louise, who wears a number of hats. Thank you and welcome.
Good morning. I am the same person that you see in there. I just have this way of looking different all the time. Good morning. It is indeed an honor for me to represent the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund, that's the CBF, at this very important conference. Tourism is a key industry in the Caribbean, and the 5 Ps, as defined by the CTO, people, planet, prosperity, purpose, and partnership, require equal consideration for a region to thrive long-term. Indeed, the vision of the CBF is a Caribbean where both its natural environment and its people thrive. The CBF is a regional umbrella environmental fund that implements innovative solutions and consolidates regional conservation impacts in the Caribbean. This is done through a range of financial instruments. We provide continuous funding for conservation and sustainable development in more than 13 countries within the Caribbean region. And here you could see some of the countries that we provide support for. We look at the key elements of the CBF. And the CBF aims to create opportunities and distribute funds throughout the region for global conservation impact. Currently, the CBF is supporting 3 programs. And these programs are the Climate Change Program, that is anchored in the Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Facility that we refer to as the EBA facility. This has supported over 30 projects in 11 countries thus far. There is the Nature-Based Economies Program under the Advancing Circular Economy, or the ACE facility. This facility will be announcing its first call for proposal shortly. We are aiming to support 20 circular economic projects, so please check the website. CBF also has a conservation finance program that creates and supports the development of national conservation trust funds. We refer to them as NCTFs, and this is at the country level. Those national funds receive funding from the CBF, from projects, and from our CBF Endowment Fund. Here you will see each of the programs, and under each program, CBF offers several avenues for funding, and calls for proposals will be issued later this year. So you see the conservation finance, 10 million, and you could see the sums that are available there. You may notice the size of the grants and the areas of focus on this particular slide. And at the end of the presentation, I will share our website information, and I urge you to keep track there for the timing of our calls, and of course, follow us on Facebook, social media, okay? Here we see some of CBS projects to date. We have Jamaica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, a number of projects there. One of CBF's goals is to support the global conservation goals and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. SDGs target in particular 8.9, which promotes beneficial and sustainable tourism, and the SDG target 12.b, which aims to develop and implement tools to monitor sustainable development impacts for sustainable tourism that creates jobs and promotes local culture and products. Now, just to zero in on one of our programs, the circular economy has been gaining momentum in recent years for its potential to significantly optimize resource use and reduce emissions, while at the same time offering competitive advantage opportunities for businesses. The tourism sector registered continuous growth in the past decade. Such growth can represent challenges, of course, related to the carrying capacity of destinations, consumption of natural resources, and the impacts of climate change. Addressing all of these issues must be at the heart of the tourism sector, since the resilience of tourism will depend on the sector's ability to balance the needs of people, the planet, and prosperity. Here are some key considerations for tourism, the tourism sector. Adopting a circular economy mindset in designing its environment, products, and services. And this will in turn drive innovation and competitive advantage through reduced waste and improved efficiency with resource use. Now, looking at circular economy opportunities with the greatest materials flows, such as water and food. Food waste, unfortunately, remains a significant issue for us to work on. The UNEP 2021 Food Waste Index report estimates that around 931 million tons of food waste was generated in 2019, with 25% derived from food service. Yet, there's a disturbing 71% of the Caribbean population face moderate to severe food insecurity in 2020. This is very sobering. Disengaging, where feasible, from business activities where the circular economy is not a full part of the consideration. CBF will be playing its part in these and other ideas. I'm pleased to inform you that the CBF has an MOU with the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association and the Caribbean Alliance for Sustainable Tourism. This was signed last August. In this MOU, there are 5 areas of cooperation: communication and advocacy, technical support and training, networking and liaison, research and monitoring, information sharing, and capacity building. I will conclude by saying that we have already started discussions on some of these ideas and activities, and we look forward to continuing playing our role in the balancing of the 5 Ps. Thank you very much for your time, and please remember to check out our website for more information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lewis. And, Miss, I stand corrected. One thing, that has been my experience when I attend various events and I meet with, donors or partners, one of the things that I constantly hear is that, funding allocated for the region goes unspent. And, we're not engaged enough in really mobilizing the resources that are available. So the idea behind this panel was to bring a cross-section of various donors, including development banks, of course, funding agencies, to be able to present on opportunities that are available. So please review the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund website, and I guess look out for their upcoming call for proposals. Certainly, it is important though to align with their priorities based on our own development objectives. So in highlighting the 3 areas that they focus on, certainly climate change, so projects related to climate resilience, nature-based economies, and we'll be hearing a little bit more about that later from Conservation International, and certainly conservation finance. And we know that tourism is an avenue for biodiversity conservation, which is really one of the pillars for our tourism product. So thanks again, Miss Louise. And we move on to Mr. Christopher McNair. And Christopher is the program specialist for business development at the CARICOM Development Fund. So welcome, Christopher. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, panelists. It's great to be here, and thanks to the CTO for inviting the CDF to participate in this very, very important conference. So from the CBF to the CDF, sounds about right. I was looking for Hannah from Virgin. She spoke about sustainable aviation fuel earlier, and I wonder if she had your fruit punch last night. Did any of you had that fruit punch, the rum punch last night? Oh, let me tell you something, man. I couldn't wake up this morning. It's the bottom one. All right. So let me talk a little bit about the CDF. We certainly don't have the kind of capital base that others that have spoken before have, but we consider ourselves nimble and are ready to partner with anyone. The CDF was established in 2008 through Article 158 of the revised treaty. And essentially, the idea behind the establishment of the CDF is to see how we can address any potential imbalance that would have emanated from the CSME, the Caribbean Single Land Market economy, speaking to the imbalance between the so-called MDCs and LDCs. And so we essentially were created to look at addressing disadvantaged sectors and countries and regions and communities as well by providing financial and technical support. We work with 12 member states, so those are the member states that are part of CARICOM that have signed on to the CSME, and we are funded mainly through the contributions of those member states. And as you would expect, the MDCs carry the most of the burden of providing those resources. We do operate on what we call a funding cycle approach. We just finished our second funding cycle last year, and we started our third funding cycle in January of this year. So I do see some of the folks that I would have met with earlier this year from Grenada when I came to do what we call a project pipeline development process. So we are now actively engaging governments looking for various projects. So I would have met with the Minister from Tourism, Agriculture, and others to discuss this. And of course, good news for us, we got GCF accreditation last year, so now we can pull together some projects for GCF funding as well. In terms of our thematic priority areas for this cycle, regional investment promotion, human capacity development, and the list is there. Of course, environmental resilience and climate action is a key part of where we see ourselves in this third cycle. We've kind of pulled out transformation of the agri-sector because it's very strategic within CARICOM. Some of you may have heard about 25 by 25, and that's one of the things that we want to make sure we're a part of. But all of the other thematic priorities cuts across all the productive sectors. So, if you don't see tourism there, all of those things essentially cut across tourism. In terms of the resources we have provided in the first 2 cycles of the CDF, over $134 million. Again, not as much as others. But we believe that we play a very important role in the ecosystem. And we are a very small organization, only 17, 18 staff. So we're very flat. We respond a little bit quicker than others. And I think that gives us a little edge in terms of how we operate. Grenada, for example, we have a number of projects right now still going in Grenada. We're providing resources to the GIDC, and I think Ron Theodore, who's the president, was here earlier. Bureau of Standards, Customs and Excise Division. So we have several projects right now on the ground in Grenada. And one of the important projects has to do with youth in agriculture. We have a program right now on building the capacity within young people in agriculture and linking that to tourism. In terms of the sectors, tourism is only 14% of our overall funding. But when you look at in cycle 1, that figure was more like $3 million. Now what you're looking at is somewhere in the region of $80 million. We are starting to re-examine the role of tourism and to see how we can actually engage with the sector more. And I'll talk a little bit more about something that we're discussing with CTO towards the end of my presentation. Delivery mechanisms, we typically engage with governments through what we call our country assistance program. This is where governments bring their projects to us, we evaluate them, and where possible, we provide resources for those programs. So the $134 million that you saw before, all of those resources would have been distributed under our CAP program. But we're trying to be innovative, we're trying to be creative, and so we have come up with 2 new mechanisms. One is CRAF, Credit Risk Abatement Facility, which provide a guarantee scheme for private sector, for firms, for SMEs who are looking to invest in RE and EE solutions. We work through financial intermediaries at the national level. We provide up to 80% guarantee for projects ranging from $25,000 to $750,000 US, right? And we also have built into that program an amount of monies set aside for technical assistance, for project preparation, and also for training within the energy service companies as well as the financial institutions. In January, we would have launched our Climate Resilience Fund. This is very, very new. It is specifically targeting the private sector, and it's a $100 million fund right now. We're looking to grow that, and it is in partnership with the USAID. Again, it does have a PPF, a project preparation facility, built into it as well. And then what I want to do is talk a little bit about a program that we're looking to develop, a regional community-based tourism program. This came about from work we're doing right now in St. Lucia. I see PS Vitae, stand for me now. Stand up, man. Dahlia Guard and the chairman, Mr. George. So we're funding a program right now in St. Lucia, a community-based tourism program. And the lessons we are learning so far, we thought this is something that we should regionalize. We should take a regional. And we're having some conversations with CTO about how we can do that. And so towards the latter part of this year, we're going to be rolling this program out. We're looking at, in terms of components, assessing assets, assessing products, infrastructure development, access to funding, capacity building, marketing, and promotion. And that's it for me. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. For those of us that are not as vertically challenged, so yes, we know that CDF is a very important player, certainly in the CARICOM context. And again, it's interesting to look at the cross-cutting areas that these donor agencies prioritize. In the case of CDF, human capital development. I know we have a human capital development program at the CTO, so we'll be knocking on doors. Environmental resilience, and again, climate change. Community empowerment is the first that they've really zoned in on that area, and it's really heartening. We have had discussions with CDF, and we are looking to see what we can scale up in terms of the pilot that has been done in St. Lucia. And lastly, enterprise development and competitiveness. And you will hear a little bit more about that as I introduce our next speaker, presenter, Mr. Wayne Elliott, who is the Productivity and Innovation Coordinator at the Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility. And I have to say, Compete Caribbean, you know, is one of our strongest regional partners currently in our in terms of providing support for our community-based tourism program. So Wayne, one of my favorite persons who never says no, you know, when I come up with these amazing and sometimes interesting proposals, you know, always willing to engage and support. So I'm very, very pleased to now introduce the representative of Compete Caribbean. Welcome, Wayne.
Yes, and that's me as well, right? So Grenada is a very special place for me. That photo was actually taken 2 weeks after my first project was identified right here in Grenada. We wrote that project, got it approved, and implemented that project, right? So that was maybe about 10 years ago. Maybe about a couple months ago when we did the check, I identified and wrote maybe about $15 million in projects since that project. And so Grenada is always a special place. I remember the first time I came, Dr. Marcel, I told him, you know, Dr. Marcel, I'm here to identify a project. I have no idea what's going on. I know it's within the nutmeg space. Can you teach me? And boy, did I not know why I was asking. Dr. Marcel pulled together a steering committee. We had a whole bunch of meetings. And by the Wednesday, when I spoke to Simon Steele, who was the parliamentary secretary at the time, he asked me, how long were you living in Grenada? Right? So thank you very much, Dr. Marcel. All right, so today I'll speak a little bit about Compete Caribbean, the work that we've been doing to support community-based tourism, a little bit more about the wider work that we've been doing to support tourism in general, and then I'll speak to you a little bit about what we have in store for the Caribbean and the next iteration of Compete, right? So let's start a little bit with what Compete is really about. What is it? And so Compete Caribbean is really a partnership facility. It focuses on private sector development, and it delivers innovative and practical solutions that can stimulate economic growth, increase productivity, and foster innovation and competitiveness, right? So you'll see the word innovate, innovation quite a bit. Compete Caribbean really focuses on de-risking innovation, right? We know doing things first or doing new thing, being the guy who's trying to figure it out first, that's very expensive in our neck of the woods. And so Compete Caribbean really tries to de-risk it and provide some technical assistance grants. We're a grant facility, 100% tried and true. And our resources come from the Inter-American Development Bank, the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, the Caribbean Development Bank, and the Government of Canada. We work in 13 Caribbean countries. So CARICOM minus Haiti. In the first iteration of Compete, we did work in Haiti on the CCPF, Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility. We no longer work in Haiti because they actually started their own program, right? We have two sides really. Well, let's talk about the outcome. Essentially, what Compete Caribbean really tries to do is move the needle on private sector development. on two strands, right? We work with the private sector directly, and we also work with governments. So this is how we're structured. These are our instruments, right? How we really kind of look at it is who benefits, as opposed to different thematic areas. We're sector agnostic. We'll work in any sector that you're interested in working in. On the left side, my furthest right, is really the productivity and innovation in the private sector pillar. That's the one that I currently lead. Under that, we have three instruments and three target beneficiaries of sorts. So we work a lot with clusters and value chains, so groups of firms, guys who are interested in collaborating around providing a public good or creating a public good, right? We also work with entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem, so creating the enabling environment that supports the development of firms. And then we also do a bit on technology adoption and diffusion of technology, right? So here in Grenada, we've done a quick tally. I think we've done about 6 or 7 projects with Grenada over time. I think we're somewhere approaching about $6 million invested. And they span quite a bit of the instruments we have. For sure, we do quite a bit of work in clusters and value chains. The entrepreneur and innovation ecosystem projects, we've tended to work with the OECS Commission in order to implement those. And as well as the technology innovation, we work directly with firms, and there are a couple of Grenadian firms that have been benefiting from our technology extension services. On the flip side of Compete Caribbean, so that's the side where we work with firms to help them to do what they need to do better. Create money, create jobs, profits, that's the thing that we really want to work. And it's okay for firms to want to make money. We're happy to sign up with you to help you to make money. That's fine. On the other side is the business climate reform path. Essentially what we do there is work with governments to create the enabling environment for firms to do exactly what we want them to do, become the engines of growth, right? So we work with them to do policy and regulatory reforms, institutional strengthening, and we also do quite a bit of work in terms of research and the research products to kind of drive the direction that we think the Caribbean needs to go. Now, it's important for me to tell you again, if it's not innovative, Compete Caribbean doesn't touch it, right? If it's tried and true, you can go to a commercial bank to get it financed, we don't touch it. It has to have an element of risk to it. It needs to be innovative, maybe first or second to the location. If you're trying to figure out how on earth do I, if the question starts like that, then Compete Caribbean call is probably a call that you want to reach out to us and maybe get some support, right? All right, so there's a little bit about the results so far. This iteration of Compete was started in 2017. We're meant to end this year, so we're on the tail end of our resources. What that means is that we're fully committed at this point in time. That's not bad news. That's actually really great news when you think about the number of jobs that have been created coming out of the pandemic, when you think about the number of women-owned firms that are benefiting from our support, the fact that a very small team made up predominantly of Caribbean people have identified, gotten approved, and implemented 50 technical assistance projects valued on average around $300,000 to $400,000 US. And the fact that we've worked with 7 countries to improve their business environment, as well as 96 partnering, including the CTO in here, development institutions to strengthen their own opportunities, right? Their own work. And so that's a big deal in a very short space of time. And so the fact that we are wrapping it up is actually a really good signal, okay? Now let's talk a little bit about community-based tourism. And I sat here in the audience yesterday and I said, okay, the proof is in the pudding, right? It made it onto the slide. So with CTO, we've been working for quite some time, almost the entire iteration of this Compete Caribbean. And at this moment, I'd really like to acknowledge Annie Bertrand, who was my predecessor at Compete Caribbean. And she basically paved the way with the relationship with Compete Caribbean and CTO. She did all the hard parts, and I got to focus on the implementation of the projects. And so this relationship is kind of outlined here on the slide. We basically met with the CTO, really understood the need and where we wanted to pivot This would have started right before COVID, so you could imagine Compete Caribbean already having a plan agreed to, well in advance, structured program of support already approved during COVID, mobilized, ready to go as soon as COVID gave us a little space, right? So it really helped us. I think it signals the foresight of the CTO and Compete Caribbean, and it really positioned us to really advance support as soon as we had the different all clears within various countries. And so it really started around quite a bit of work to really understand the assets that we have, the tourism, the community-based tourism assets that we had, really understanding where we were within the Caribbean space. We also did quite a bit of capacity building, a lot of facilitation, a lot of development work, a lot of product development work. And what we realized is that there was really a need to help to codify a lot of the knowledge and disseminate it, right? How do you develop a tourism product? Are there steps that we can take? What does that mean? Where do I start? Who else is in this space within my jurisdiction? And that's really where the CBT toolkit came in, right? We did a masterclass, and we also provided the CTO with just about $1 million so that we can pilot community-based tourism projects within the Caribbean. And we have 3 of those projects ongoing that the CTO is working very hard to wrap up as well. So I'll tell you a little bit about the toolkit, because we're hoping, so let me tell you one more thing about Compete. Compete is not the occupation army. We don't come in and fight the 10-year war. Compete comes in, we come up on the banks, we figure out what needs to be figured out, we get it done, we get to proof of concept, we pilot, and we demonstrate and use that as a demonstration to other donors that it is possible, and provide them an easier decision or a better proposition as to how they could potentially scale it. And so where Chris spoke to you about the CBT work that's likely to happen with CTO, we're very happy about that. Because Chris's numbers, although he thinks those are small, they're way bigger than ours. And if he can do it, maybe somebody else will scale his program, and resources will continue to go in to community-based tourism projects for years to come. So this is what the toolkit looks like. It is available free of cost on the CTO website as well as the Compete Caribbean website. It really consists of 5 tools. So there's a tourism asset inventory, which tells you about all the tourism assets in your country. We did a ridiculous amount of research on this one. We have the CBT diagnostic, which is almost like a self-diagnostic that you can take. We have the enterprise handbook. So how do you develop your own community-based tourism enterprise? We did quite a bit of consumer research. So the idea was, okay, let's figure out what the consumers want. What are they willing to pay for? And at the bottom of the line is really authentic experiences. In the Caribbean, many of them evolve around food, right? That's what they said. So this was really a market study. And then what we have is the CBT profiles. We kind of have a list of potential CBT products that we could also share with you, Chris, as a pipeline. And the way we really went about it in terms of identifying the projects that we work with as the pilots, it was an open call. So on the private side of Compete Caribbean, the way we get resources to who need them most is really through challenge calls, or innovation calls, we call them, right? We say, hey, private sector in the Caribbean, you said you needed resources, we have them. Can you please send us a project proposal? And the way it works, we shortlist them, and we provide support upfront, right? We provide capacity building support as well as support to help you to develop your project. So sitting within Compete, I'm the one who's rooting for all projects. I want all projects to be approved, and so I lobby and I work with consultants to ensure that your project is best presented. Unfortunately for me, I'm not the one who's tasked with deciding which projects are approved. We put that to an investment panel, and that investment panel is made up of staff from the donors, from the IDB, the CDB, so technical guys. We go with investors into the specific thematic space, and we ask them one fundamental question. If this were your money, would you finance this project as written? The answer is yes, no, yes with changes, right? And so essentially what we do is we ask people already invested in the space, people who know the spaces much better than us, if they would finance the project as is. That support is provided and paid for by Compete Caribbean. And so as long as you apply and you're shortlisted, the benefits start to accrue up front, right? And I think that's similar to your project preparation facility, Chris. And so what we find is that this is very important, right? In Grenada, I remember when we did our first private sector call at Compete Caribbean back in like 2012, maybe, the applications from the OECS in general were very low in terms of numbers, and the ones when we reviewed them, the quality wasn't all the way up, right? And so the challenge that we had was, how do we build the capacity of people in the Caribbean in general to write the types of proposals that other donors need to see, right? And so what we do is we provide that type of support up front. And so fundamentally, like, I don't think we can make it any easier. You see a Compete Caribbean call, you just really need to articulate the idea and what it is that you're really trying to do, the benefits of it, and we'll help you. We'll help you to really define it. We'll help you to craft it, put it in nice donor speech, donor language, investment type language or development type language, and we're really here to help, right? We do a lot of hand holding, and I think Amanda attested to that. So a little bit about some of the other work that we're doing in terms of tourism space. Last week I spent some time in Guyana. We've now done 3 projects related to adventure tourism, 2 within the Rupununi and 1 within the Essequibo. The Rupununi ones, there's one that really sticks out to me. It was really in the north of the Rupununi, around the Arapaima fish, which is one of the largest freshwater fish in the world. Now we had the residents there who they would catch it and eat it for food. And so this project really started around behavioral change and working with them to develop a fly fishing industry where they can have a catch and release type program to really be able to target international tourists or fish flyers, fly fishers, yeah, to be able to come in, spend some time within the communities. These same guys, the best hunters, were now the best tour guides because they knew the behavior, they understood it, and they now make a whole lot more money than if that fish was on a plate, right? So that particular project, it started on, as a cluster project, it started on the private side. We had to tie in a whole bunch of support on the legislative side to facilitate it, and I think that's one of my most memorable projects. We're trying to do a similar thing in the South Rupununi, which is a lot more arid, a lot drier conditions. We're working with a lot of the indigenous communities there, trying to work with them to develop their own tourist products, and so we can bridge the North and the South Rupununi. And so just to give context, we visited a place in the South Rupununi called a Shelton, and the Tushao, or I guess in our language you would think of him more like the chief of the village. He says, "Welcome Wayne, welcome home." And he says, I said, how big is a Shelton? Like, how big are your grounds, right? And he said, it's 166.3 square miles. And I paused because I'm Barbadian, right? Barbados is 166 square miles. And that's just one indigenous community in the South, right? So when you start adding them up together, it's crazy. It's the vastness of it is almost surreal, right? And so how do you create a useful tourism circuit within that space? And that's just South Rupununi. That has nothing to do with the North Rupununi, right? We flew maybe about an hour and a half just to get from one part of Guyana to the South Rupununi, to get from Georgetown to the South Rupununi. Then we have the Bahamas sea coral. I heard quite a bit of mention yesterday about the coral reefs. This one was really around raising the awareness to the plight of the coral reefs in the Bahamas, and out of it was also born the Reef Rescue Network, whereas they're likely to go on and continue to champion the efforts. Then there's Treasure Beach, Jamaica, which we've been using as one of our flagship programs as well. We've done quite a bit of work with Treasure Beach in Jamaica, and I think the Tobagonians here might have experienced a little bit of Treasure Beach within the IDB program. They are looking to scale out some of that work. All right, so let's talk real quick in my last 2 minutes. None? Okay. Well, 2 sentences. Compete Caribbean is going into its 3rd iteration, right? And essentially what's gonna happen is we already received the top up. You'll see some calls coming out in likely to be September. We're trying to get them pulled up to maybe July, August. Same instruments, same type of work, same type of projects. We're always looking for innovation. but we're also going to be putting a slant to it, and we're really going to put in the climate slant into Compete Caribbean. So exact same Compete Caribbean, now we're putting a climate focus on it. The calls will be coming out soon. The exact same structure, exact same types of projects, exact same beneficiaries, but now with a climate slant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elliott. This is going to cost you. But thank you again for that very comprehensive overview. And how can I forget Annie Bertrand, who really is a community champion and MSME development champion, and really supported the conceptualization of the program of work between CTO and the Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility. So we are behind, and I can accommodate two questions. So on a first come, first served basis, are there any questions, or have we been sufficiently well informed by our distinguished panelists? Well, I see Lima Frederick, previously from the Ministry of Tourism of Grenada. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Just right here. Yes. Compete Caribbean, very good presentation. All the others are good as well. For the CAF, no, well, you see, you made it more tangible. We could actually see the work that's been done. With CAF, I wanted to find out what sort of projects that was done in Latin America, because we do know that it's a Latin American bank and it is dominated by the countries in Latin America. So we would really like to see and know some of the projects that was done by CAF, because you did give us an idea of the bankable projects that the other countries in the Caribbean can source funds. The other thing too, monies are available, but is accessing the funds. And this is one of the main problems that we have. The protocols, the procedures to access funds from these organizations are very, very difficult, right? And then at the end of the year, when these organizations have not spent half of the money, then we have a workshop. Quick. We're doing a workshop here, we're doing a workshop here, just to get rid of the funds that were not spent. So we want to know, how do we access those funds? Ms. Louise, you mentioned projects that are being done in other islands. What's about Grenada? Can you tell us what is going on in Grenada concerning the Caribbean Diversity Fund? And the CDF, you say it's a fund set up by CARICOM. We know member states, sometimes when they have to pay, it takes a lot of time to get that money out of the treasury. But can you also give us some ideas of the projects that you would have done in other Caribbean islands? In other words, we want to see the tangibility of these funding experiences. Where was the money spent? Thank you.
Thank you, Lima. Well, that was, 5 questions? But feel free, and I can start with our representative from CAF.
Sure, thank you very much for the very interesting questions. I'll start off succinctly to say that the work that we've done in Latin America, I think, would serve as an interesting set of experiences that we can draw on. So you're very right, but we work with individual countries to curate their own projects based on their own development needs. So the idea is not to take what's being done there, but certainly to look at what's been done, learn from some of those lessons, adapt some of those projects, and I can give you a few examples. For example, in Galapagos Islands, we have an ecological restoration project that was funded there. In Ecuador, we have a biotrade project that's ongoing. We have something, a regional project that looks at sargassum called the Sarg Marine Project. And then in Ecuador, we also have a national eco park trail project. So those are some examples, but again, the beauty in development financing and development execution is working with the partners on the ground to make sure that what is developed really responds and targets the needs of the country. And I'll hand over to, I think there was another question about funding and unspent funds. I don't know if you want to take that, perhaps, on your side.
I can quickly respond on the issue of the difficulty of accessing funding and the long processes, and yes, we're very aware of that. I'm a real advocate for reverse missions, you know, instead of bank people coming here, I think we should have the staff of the country actually come to Washington, D.C., learn about procurement methods. Those rules are there for a reason, right? And I think part of the legacy of a World Bank project, I hope, is the capacity built in country. Unlike other funders, we actually ensure that you run the project yourself. You have to manage it, to disperse the funding, to do your own safeguards. So I know it's hard. It is a steep learning curve. But once you're there, then you have the capacity to procure large projects, manage large infrastructure interventions, which then puts the development more in your own hands than it otherwise would be if we'd been just dispersing the funds from DC. Thanks.
Yes, to answer your question, first, I'm here representing the region, so I was speaking to regional projects. There's a national organization here, the NCTA, that has several programs. We work on the MPAs, the Marine Protected Areas. There are projects in that, as well as Mount, where you go on Sundays? No, not Mount Morris. Yes, Mongazo. That project in terms of the whole project and visiting the trails, etc. That's another one. And there's also some areas with planting mangrove, etc. So you could always check the NTCF for the various projects that we are engaging in here in Grenada. Thank you.
So let me first say that in terms of CDF being a CARICOM entity and obviously being funded by the member states, you're always going to have issues in terms of payments and when that comes due. I think we have done a really good job of managing our cash flow to have a capital base that allows us to respond to the needs of the member states, but that is always a challenge, and it's not as a challenge with CDF, it's a challenge with all CARICOM institutions. In terms of projects, I mean, I didn't go through all the projects because they're quite a lot. For example, we are currently redeveloping the Frigate Bay Strip in St. Kitts and Nevis. I spoke before about the project in St. Lucia, the community-based tourism project there, which we're very, very proud of. We're also doing work in St. Vincent in terms of building hotel. But I also want to say, in terms of my presentation, you know, a lot of the resources we actually, in terms of providing resources to the private sector, we actually go through the development banks in the member states and on lending to MSMEs. A lot of those MSMEs are from the tourism sector. A lot of them are in terms of, you know, accommodations, Airbnb, and restaurants, and that is not necessary. That wasn't captured in the figure I produced. That was more for infrastructure type development. I'd also like to add, in terms of, you know, when you think about financing, there are two sides to that, right? There's a supply and there's a demand, right? And while I will say that there needs to be more innovation on the supply side, one of the things that we find on the demand side, and this is more for both public and private sector, is that the quality of the projects are just not there. They do require a lot more work to be done to them to allow us to actually do a proper evaluation and risk assessment of those projects. And that is why the last two mechanisms, the last two financial mechanisms we have come up with, we have built into them some kind of project preparation facility because we recognize that there is this gap. We do need to, to some extent, redefine what is return on investment, especially when you're talking about public projects. But there needs to be that level of capacity building as well on the supply side. And that is something that we are looking at. That is something that we're trying to see if we can build that capacity through business support organizations at the national level.
1 minute, Wayne.
Thank you, Amanda. So, no, I really can't get off the stage without acknowledging GHTA, right? Let me give you the story. 1 minute. So GHTA, the Pure Grenada, the brand, you heard earlier from the president, and she spoke to you, the brainchild of the GHTA and how it really came about. But one of the most visible projects for Compete Caribbean is this Pure Grenada brand, right? When they conceptualized it, GHTA actually put the effort in, went through that long process you spoke about, and they won a Compete Caribbean grant that helped them to really help to implement their geotourism, destination tourism plan. And the brand was born out of one of those projects, right? And so, they really asked about sustainability. This is almost 10 years. Pure Grenada has grown from strength to strength. It's covered everywhere, everything. And I really, really love to come to your airport. I mean, it's easy now for me to explain what I actually do to my kids from day to day. Thank you very much for that opportunity, and congratulations.
A round of applause to our distinguished panelists, beginning with Dr. Stacy Richards-Kennedy, Dr. Louise Twinning-Ward, Miss Petipha Lewis. I think I got it. Mr. Christopher McNair, and Mr. Wayne Elliott. Thank you all so very much. Over to you, Sharon.
See, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to talking about financing, we all want to pay attention, right? Because we're trying to figure out where we can get some of these funds, and how easy it would be for us to get these funds to be able to do our work programming and our product development. So that was, like all sessions, another important session. And while we prepare for the next session we have, as we move on to our next P of purpose, I want to, earlier I was giving you a reminder about our events tomorrow, and I mentioned to you that there is an exclusive Royal Caribbean onboard experience, and I want to at this time recognize the presence of Wendy McDonald. Wendy, are you here this time? Because I spoke about you last time and I didn't, and you were not in the room. There she is. Wendy is the Regional Vice President, Government Relations, Caribbean of the Royal Caribbean Group, and they will be hosting delegates who signed up as they were asked to do by a particular deadline for the onboard luncheon experience. We also have a small group of government or CTO government members who will be going on a special sustainability tour of RCL. So we just want to say thank you once again, Wendy, to you, to RCL, for being coming on board and sponsoring this important event. We're quite looking forward to it. So, ladies and gents, having said that, I do have a reminder for those of you who signed up for the onboard luncheon. You're being asked to check your emails regularly because they're sending emails. You should have received one by now regarding a health questionnaire that you're being asked to complete. And I think the last step in that process, you should receive an email with a barcode, and that's going to give you entrance to the vessel. Without that, you cannot get on board. So please check your emails to make sure that you have received the email regarding the health questionnaire. Please complete that, and then you can look for the next email to follow after that. Okay. Did y'all get a chance to go outside and ride the bikes? No, you did. Yes, I did. I think I saw you outside. So Kendra did go outside and ride. Come on, gentlemen and ladies. Please go outside during your lunch. You know what? Have your lunch. You're going to need the opportunity to ride some of that food that you will be eating off. So visit them on the outside. Junior is on the outside with some of his team members. Please have a look at their sustainable bikes and even have a ride. Okay, ladies and gents, we are on to our next session, From Prosperity to Purpose. And this session is bringing together industry leaders, stakeholders, and enthusiasts who will be exploring the intersection of purpose and passion in sustainable travel. So at this time, I'm going to invite the panelists and the moderator for that session, Mr. Michael Karabash, to the stage. And our moderator, Michael, leads Canada's largest dental-only law firm. It's based in Toronto. He works for Ontario dentists to help them sell their practices, and he also raises and donates money for various charitable endeavors. Since 2015, Michael has recruited hundreds of Canadian and US dentists, hygienists, dental and hygiene students and support staff to provide free treatments to people in Grenada, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Turks, and soon they will be going into Bahamas and Saint Martin. He does this in partnership with the Sandals Foundation, Great Shape Inc., Henry Sheen's Cares, and local governments and dentists. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our moderator, Michael, and our panelists for the session on purpose. Welcome them, please.
Purposeful tourism. What does it mean for the Caribbean for the next 50 years? What meaningful activities are most ideal for tourists to be most magnetized here? Is it for them to see underwater statues or play carnival, chase waterfalls or go to a chocolate festival, watch belly dancing or try oil down, smoked herring and bakes, black cake and sorrel? Or is it for them to support sustainability by exchanging money for activities that help rainforests, reefs, and biodiversity while profiting the local community, like having farm-to-table cuisine or touring a chocolate factory to discover the importance of ladies' feet while sipping on some cocoa tea, or making arts and crafts from yesterday's scraps once unseen but now displayed proudly and prominently, or supporting local students who plant new trees, or liking and subscribing to living organically like a Rastafari? Or is it for tourists to come here to do charity, like train local nurses and fix teeth for free, clean up the beaches and make them pristine, teach kids how to swim, or keep the earth blue and green? Well, let's take a step back. See the forest for the trees. What's the purpose of tourism, generally? Why travel at all? To chase some ideal image of life based on stories and reels that suggest that we lack or should fear missing out? But that can't be. We're already complete. So that chase just doesn't feel real. We want off that wheel of lack and fear, to leave our minds behind, steal our precious bodies, and shield our limited energy, to reveal that part that appeals to our true human being, that part that's really us, we don't travel to do. We travel to feel the highest vibrations on the consciousness scale, that peace that's always in us, and in nature's tranquility, when we sit, hike, or swim alone, but not lonely, that joy that's in music that gets us up from our seats to dance to reggae, calypso, afro, and soca beats. That higher love in serving, to kneel down and heal others who are suffering ordeals. And here in Grenada, you can feel that peace at beaches like BBC, atop Mount St. Catherine, or around the Rainbow Tree. You can feel that joy at Limes and Fettes, or at Mount Morris community breakfasts. And you can feel that higher love in Sandals' generosity, because they help thousands of Grenadians get health treatments for free. And those feelings of peace, joy, and higher love peel away our cold, hard steel, shells to reveal our own inner green fields, tranquil waters, and teal skies, because it's being those feelings that makes us alive, makes us ideal human beings, makes us magnetize our best possible lives. So what's purposeful tourism for the Caribbean for the next 50 years? My dear colleagues and peers, it's combining selfish and selfless into one deal to help both the tourist and host country to heal. It's having these islands guide us back to what's real, to fall head over heels with ourselves, others, nature, and a higher being, to discover how to be selfish and do selfless with zeal. And wherever we go next, we will take that from here. It's my first time moderating, be gentle. Okay, so I'm having fun. Are you guys having fun? I want to get Magdalena up here like lickety-split. She is one of the owners from 1998, along with her family, of True Blue Bay Resort, and she is the reason you guys have a chocolate festival. And with her family, they have been heavily involved in community engagement and in environmental sustainability. Let's get a warm round of applause for Magdalena.
Thank you so much. Oh, that a little bit short. Thank you, everybody, and thank you very much for the CTO to put together this amazing conference. And I have a presentation. Is this one? Yeah? So just press like that.
Down?
Down. Oh, down there. Well,
Is this it? Yeah, there you go.
it's a very, very short presentation, so you've seen it all now. Unity in purpose with passion. For many of you that know me, you know they know me and know True Blue. We all work in there with passion. And that has taken us through many places that we never imagined it was going to take us. So my husband Ross supposed to be here today to do this talk, but unfortunately, you probably noticed the dust in the atmosphere is really bad today, and the doctor told him, you're not going anywhere, you're staying home. So here I am, representing my husband, that you can see here as a little boy. Thank you. Thank you. So, I don't know if any of you know what that little cage is. Anybody knows? No? Well, when my husband was about that age, he is from England, I'm from Mexico. He said that he was taken to a coal mine. And one thing that really stayed in his head is seeing these cages with a little light cannery. And mainly, they used it to see how contaminated was the coal mine, and if it was a lot of CO2 or it was any poisonous gases, the poor bird passed out. And then they knew they had to evacuate the coal mine. And the little gas tank in the top is oxygen to revive the bird. So they turned the oxygen on, and the poor bird was still alive. But he said that this stayed in his mind, and for the first time he realized the impact of the environment for humans and animals. And from there, he decided to pay more attention to everything that was surrounding him. So that was one thing that my husband was going to talk about. So we bought True Blue Bay Resort, like you mentioned, in 1998, and here's where we are. But for the moment we bought the hotel, we only had 7 rooms. And it was a bankrupt place that we bought, and we had to figure out how we're going to make this place work. In those days, tourism in Grenada wasn't that developed, and we were suffering to get airlines into the country. So from that moment, we decided we're not going to be depending on tourism. We're going to have to involve the community. And that's what we start doing in many ways. So the first year we were there, we started to doing some aircraft bazaars. But let me just tell you very quickly, these are some of our sustainable efforts we're doing now. We have solar energy. All our vehicles are electric. We trying to implement the hydroponics. We have our green team, and we also do cleanups that now have turned into walks too, so we go walking and cleaning. And then also biogas machine. The Grenada Chocolate Festival came to mind when we were looking for things for our guests to do during their stay. And I met this gentleman, Maud Green, that he was the first person that decided to come to Grenada and start a tree-to-bar business. And I have some of my staff passing some bonbons from the House of Chocolate, so we don't fall asleep and keep alive. And also I like to introduce Kimlin, that is in her white chef's uniform. Kimlin is our youngest chef that is doing the chocolate. She makes all these chocolates for you. So as you can see here, during the Chocolate Festival, we have a lot of activities, and all of them involve the community. I want to have a festival where people understood where the cocoa came from, how the cocoa was growing, who were the farmers, who was advising the farmers, and also most of our farms in Grenada are organic. And in the Caribbean, we have one of the best cocoa in the world, fine cocoa. And I think this is an amazing thing that not many people have paid attention to. So the Chocolate Festival will be going now for 10 years. And this is going to be our 11th year, so if you want to come back quickly to Grenada, please come. We're starting on May 15 to the 20th, and it's going to be around the island. We have included, the festival started in True Blue in my hotel, but then we included other companies, other hotels, and every year we did a little different. Last year we brought the rum. Some years we had done beer, and it's incredible once you get into a subject like this, how many things can be done, how much value-added products come into the picture. At the moment, when we started the Chocolate Festival, we started with 2 chocolate companies, Maud being the original, and his claim to fame is that he started the first chocolate factory that was done producing fine chocolate that was set on where the plantations grow. And you know cocoa only grows around the equator. It's incredible that he did this because nobody else had done a fine chocolate place where the cocoa grows. So his claim to fame is he is the father of the tree-to-bar, we can say. And that happened here in Grenada. So that story was amazing. Also, he wanted to do the cocoa to be sustainable. He filled up one time a whole boat, a sailboat full of chocolate and send it to Europe because he wanted his chocolate to be carbon-free. He tried to use solar energy, but at those days, it was not that developed. And unfortunately, we lost him. And as my little, memory for him is to create the Chocolate Festival. So we continue with all of this because I think he has some incredible ideas about how to be sustainable. And he made sure that all the chocolate he was using was organic and brought that new idea to the country. We had to produce organic because that's what the world is looking for. So I feel very proud that I got to continue his legacy. And the Chocolate Festival has been very successful in Grenada. Of course, like we don't have ever enough money to make it bigger. But we have people visiting from all over the place. Last year, we had somebody from Nigeria she wanted to come and see how we do that here. We had a huge delegation from Tobago a couple years ago that came to see what we were doing. Most of the government officials were in tourism or agriculture. So I felt very proud that they were coming to see what we were doing. Another initiative we started with the community. It was our Street Food Wednesdays. And if you here on Wednesday, you had to go to street food at True Blue Bay Resort, because right there, you will find all the food, the Grenada food you can imagine for. This started, it was a crazy idea came to me after visiting England and going to a street food street. And I thought, why can't we do this in Grenada? And my staff were horrified because they go like, you mean you're gonna bring street vendors to the hotel? And I go like, yeah, why not? And they couldn't believe I was doing that, but it has become one of the most successful events we have in Grenada. Also, just very quickly, as the Chocolate Festival is once a year, I decided to open the House of Chocolate. They also, please go and visit. And it's a mini museum. I call it Chocolateria because it's not a coffee place. And right there, we explain to people that don't have the chance to go to the country how chocolate comes alive, how it's processed, how the cocoa trees produce the pods, and also you get to taste and see most of the products containing cocoa, chocolate, cocoa butter, cocoa nibs in the island. So I hope you enjoyed your chocolate, and I'm very sorry we didn't have enough for everybody, but yesterday was a smaller crowd. But if you didn't get a chocolate, please go to House of Chocolate and claim your bonbon. We will give it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Magdalena. For those who don't know, fun fact, I eat one piece of Grenadian chocolate every day. It's how I maintain this. Okay. Up next is Alicia Johnson. She is the digital destination editor for Lonely Planet, and she recently featured Grenada and all of her marvels in Lonely Planet. So, Alicia, the podium is yours.
Good morning, afternoon. Time doesn't exist in this room. So, my name is Alicia Johnson. I'm a destination editor at Lonely Planet. I'm tall. And I'm going to speak today about the media, more specifically Lonely Planet's kind of purpose and role in sustainable tourism. But before we get started, Lonely Planet is a travel company, and just like Grenada, we're celebrating 50 years in the business. We are known worldwide for our iconic guidebooks that have served as travel companions for adventurous travelers all over the world. In terms of what we cover, we've 5,000 destinations. We've produced 150 million guidebooks. We've written 18,000 articles, and we've pinpointed 270,000 points of interest. So we are a big deal in the travel media industry. When it comes to sustainability at Lonely Planet, when we speak about taking a responsible approach to travel, our aim has always been to advocate that travelers take a permissive, go if welcome, low impact, leave no trace form of travel that maximizes the economic benefits of host communities. So how do we do that? First, we highlight destinations that make sustainable tourism a focus. This is what we do. We tell the people where to go, when to go, how they can go. And we found that our readers who are living sustainable lifestyles at home have no interest in abandoning those values when they travel. So they want to go to places that align with their sustainability values, and that's what we try to do by highlighting those regions. Another way, we encourage slow travel. Slow travel is just as it sounds. It is a way of moving from a country a bit slower, or if you're moving from destination to destination, is opting to use other forms of transportation like train. And in the Caribbean, the ferry services are something that can definitely be pushed in terms of the slow travel approach to travel. This is a big one. We motivate travelers to seek community-based tourism options. When a traveler can relate to a person that they've met through community-based tourism, that destination suddenly becomes something more than a place they went to visit in the summertime. They are now invested emotionally with somebody's story. They're invested in the destination. And if any trials or tribulations comes up, the first thing they're gonna think about is that person that they met. And I think that can lead to long-lasting benefits for tourism and any other sectors. We provide alternatives to popular destinations to curb over-tourism. So, Lonely Planet, we say that over-tourism distorts the social contract between local people and businesses, and what should be a balanced relationship suddenly becomes no longer balanced. And we strive to provide alternative destinations to popular sites so that we can avoid the hostility that can sometimes grow between a place that it's people and the travelers there. Our biggest campaign is our Best in Travel and we do it every year. This is a list of the 10 sustainable destinations. We split it up by countries, cities, regions, sustainability, and best travel. And in case you're wondering, because I know all you are, St. Lucia was one of our 2024 top countries to visit this year, and had a wonderful woman named Nasha Smith knock it out the park for us in terms of writing for the books and our website. I want to highlight one other place. It's Palau. It's in Pacific Island Nation, and what they've done is that they created an app that incentivizes travelers to keep conservation in mind. So like using reef-safe sunscreen or eating at restaurants that serve sustainably sourced ingredients. And by acting responsibly, travelers can gain access to experiences that are typically set aside for the Palau family. So it's a way to kind of get people to always be responsible travelers. I want to say that these are not the only places that are doing it. There's 10 places that we're highlighting. So if you find your country is doing well, we're not saying you aren't. These are just the ones that have caught our attention for 2024. So key takeaways. This is from our articles and hearing back from folks. More travelers are demanding proof of sustainability claims. As we like to say, certifications, or young people say, give us receipts. Sustainability and being a conscious traveler are extremely important to millennials and Gen Z. That means that sustainability is not a trend. These folks know what they want, and they will not spend money on places that they don't think align with their views. Speaking of money, travelers are willing to pay more for sustainable trips, as long as they know that the money is going back into the community, as long as they know that the money is being used for community initiatives. They will proudly spend that extra money that you may think might not go over well with your customers. And then lastly, and the most important thing, local voices are essential in leading the shift in any type of community sustainability efforts. I make it a priority to have my writers be from local countries, destinations. Their voices are the one that matters. For places like us, the media, we should not be the voice, we should just be the microphone. And so local voices are the ones that are gonna be the ones that are doing that. Done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alicia. People say to me, Michael, you know, you love Grenada so much. Are you Grenadian? I say, yes, but I have to visit Canada for extended periods of time. And I promise you, Alicia, I will start subscribing and reading Lonely Planet to see if I can get away from this country that I love so much, but maybe not. Okay, up next, Kitaka Mawuto, CEO of Elevate Media, based in Grenada. And he's a marketing guy who's going to talk about Grenada's sustainable living man, a man who climbs trees, cooks in bashis. For those of you who know, it's calabash. They just call it bashis. Tells us to drink soursop leaves to help go to sleep. Kitaka?
Hi, everyone. I'd like to see all the beautiful faces. Thank you for being here. Today, I'm going to speak about something that Chronics popularized, doing it for the love and not for the likes, the embodiment of passion and purpose, by sharing the story of Ras Jinga's rise to being a global influencer and someone with great impact globally. Now, over the years, the Rasta community and the Rastafarian people have epitomized what it means to be sustainable. So long before we had permaculture, the Rastas and the people in the community were embodying sustainable farming. The way they ate, how they lived their life embodies that. Now, let me tell you about Ras Jinga. Ras had a very tough time when he decided to become a Rasta. His mother literally threw him out of the house. He went into the bushes and lived with some of the older Rasta men and had no family contact for the initial stages of his Rastafarian journey. And then he got the opportunity to go to the United States, where he lived for over 20 years working as an auto body repair person. Now, he then got the urge that most Caribbean people get when they're in the United States. I gotta go back home. I miss home. I can't take the cold anymore. He came back in 2016, and we met again. And I took the opportunity to bring him back into the hills. We went into the mountain way up. We went to the rivers. We cooked on the side of the river and did all the things that he did back in the day. And that really fired him back up. And he's like, Kitaka, boy, you know, I really feel like this is a thing we should be sharing with the world, you know. And I'm like, you know, Jinga, I feel so too, you know. Because he knows that I have background in digital media and content creation and so on. Now, that was in 2016. Nothing happened between that period. Up until 2022, when I again was chilling in my home, I was expecting my first son, and again I had that light bulb moment, like, why not just start to do that content with Jinga? He's such an interesting guy. Like, why not just start something? So I had an Instagram account, I just converted it back to his name, deleted all the content, and I sent my brother, Juma, Dreadshot on Instagram, and one of my assistants to just go with him and capture him in his natural habitat. They did some content with him, taking out cinnamon and, you know, doing his thing. And interestingly, before I knew it, we did that consistently, going and just capturing him very authentically. Before I knew it, Ras Jinga exploded. Like, my phone was just going crazy, like followers, notifications, comments, and it just blew up. And fast forward to today, and the process over the last year, I really emphasized us staying true to the purpose and the passion that really got this there. We never got carried away by wanting to run to the monetization so quickly, wanting to just get crazy, but we stuck to what got us where we were, which was that authentic expression of Jinga's life. I was even shocked to see the world be so interested in this Rasta man who is just doing his thing. And it brings us to like why we are here, like sustainability. Sometimes the things that are very simple, the things that we might even be ashamed of, the things that we feel like we need to fix and polish up to attract the tourists are sometimes the things that really attract them and bring them to Grenada. And this is what the whole Ras Jinga experience has taught me. I mean, at the end of the day, the vanity metrics doesn't even matter. having thousands of followers. To this day right now, when I check his analytics in the last 90 days, he has overall on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, over 600 and something thousand followers. He has a reach of 25 million, and he engages over 500 and something thousand followers consistently over the last 90 days. And those metrics mean nothing. Even when I've traveled, what really makes our hearts sing, I remember being in St. Lucia recently, and I met a former Miss Universe contestant, and we were talking, and she's like, "You from Grenada? Do you know Rash Jinga? He gives me so much life. He helps me with my depression. Like, I feel so happy when I look at his content." And those things mean the most to us, more than anything else. And I'm saying all of this to say in Grenada, sometimes we don't know what we have. Rash Jinga could just be one individual. There is this coconut man that might be up in Grenville, or this regular person who might be passing on the side of the street every day. That if we can utilize the digital content and position them in an authentic way, we could be creating that magnet that would pull people from all over the world to Grenada. Do you know that DJ Khaled, Cat Williams, and all these guys are on Rash Jinga stories almost every single day? That's some massive reach that we need to tap into. Now, we have done this out of passion, out of love, with no investment, and just very organically, and has brought it to this point. And it's only 10% of the potential that he has. So the next phase of the journey is definitely, how do we convert that 600 and something followers for the benefit of not only ensuring that Rash Jinga lives out his life in comfort, but how do we utilize that to bring more people to Grenada that are hungry and greedy to come to Grenada, and to take a taxi, to have a coconut water, to go to the supermarket. And I think it's very, very possible, and that requires great collaboration. Now, I'm open to connecting with anyone and people who have that level of business development skill set, because we have lots of plans to be able to bring more value from Rash Jinga to the people. One such thing we're working on right now is a program to help people to model after Rash Jinga's lifestyle. He's 66 and swinging from vines, healthy, and he is so active and so strong at that age. And there are people all over the world wallowing in disease, and I'm definitely sure they can benefit from really using some of his tested and tried methods. So I'm very happy for this opportunity to share and to show you how much value Grenada has, and how we need to invest in telling our stories in a real and authentic way. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kataka. Why is Rash Jinga not up here moderating? Okay, up next is Kirpa Grewal. She is a climate advocate and youth ocean leader who advances the role of women in the green economy. She does a lot, and she does coastal cleanups with her dog Ziggy, too.
Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all today. Do I click down? Yeah. Cool. Amazing. So, good afternoon. I'm thrilled today to discuss a topic that's incredibly close to my heart, the transformative power of purposeful tourism. As a passionate environmentalist, climate scientist, and advocate for sustainable travel, I've had the privilege of exploring some of the world's most breathtaking coastal regions, while also working tirelessly to protect them for our future and our current generations. But before we delve into the importance of purposeful tourism, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kirpa, and I wear many hats in the realm of environmental advocacy. My role, from my role as an ocean youth leader with Sustainable Ocean Alliance, to my involvement in clean tech startup ventures like Moby, and being a leader at Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability. I've dedicated my career to driving positive change in the world. Today, I want to take you on a journey, one that explores the intersection of travel, conservation, and community empowerment. We'll delve into the significance of purpose-driven tourism, initiatives, the power of partnerships and collaboration, and the inspiring impact of sustainable travel experiences. But before we proceed, I'd like to share a quote that resonates with me. "Wherever you go becomes a part of you somehow." Anita Desai. And just hold on to that feeling. So let's begin. The transformative power of purposeful tourism. Embracing sustainable travel, travel transcends leisure. It's about actively contributing to the environmental conservation, supporting local communities, and preserving cultural heritage. Whether it's participating in a reef cleanup with Aquanauts Grenada or engaging in a coral restoration project with Grenada Coral Reef Foundation, purposeful tourism fosters a sense of responsibility and stewardship among travelers. There's also a component that I'd like to touch upon of emotional connections and experiences. Emotional connections and shared experiences are catalysts for meaningful change. They inspire travelers to contribute to the preservation of natural resources and cultural heritage, fostering a sense of responsibility and commitment to sustainable travel. Environmental impact of purposeful travel. Purposeful tourism isn't just about memories or memorable experiences. It yields the tangible benefits of destinations, contributing to environmental conservation and sustainable development. By promoting responsible travel practices and supporting local communities, purposeful tourism empowers travelers to make a positive impact where they go. Empowering travelers to make sustainable choices is at the core of purposeful tourism. By embracing purposeful travel and supporting these sustainable initiatives, individuals and businesses alike can safeguard the planet's resources and drive global impact. Partnerships and collaborations in ecotourism. I'm going to put my WCS hat on right now. So Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability, who I'm here representing, promotes gender diversity and inclusion in clean technology and sustainability sectors through initiatives that make sustainable education and purposeful tourism accessible to all. WCS leads purpose-driven projects and positively impacts ecotourism and local communities. Sustainable Ocean Alliance is at the forefront for promoting ocean conservation and sustainable marine tourism. By engaging in programs related to deep-sea mining, offering microgrants for localized community projects and conferences, SOA fosters global collaboration and drives impact change in ecotourism. Grassroots partnerships in ecotourism are center to it, and I'd like to touch base on a project that I got to collaborate on last year, which was Dive and Conservation Festival. It was critical for us to partner with these grassroots organizations in coastal regions as they were so purposeful in getting us connected to really impact change. We were all able to be agents of change. And by showcasing local conservation efforts and emphasizing collective action, these partnerships foster a sense of community, involvement, and empower travelers to really make a difference. Here are some examples of purposeful tourism, specifically in Grenada. So, purposeful tourism initiatives such as reef cleanups, community empowerment projects, highlight the impact of partnership in achieving sustainable development goals. SDG 17 highlight. These initiatives drive meaningful progress in ecotourism by inspiring change and fostering global collaboration. Some organizations in Grenada that I'd like to kind of just highlight are Sweet Grenada Tours. They have lovely tours around the island showcasing natural beauty and allowing travelers to actually experience the splendors of nature. One of their experiences, hike through an exotic rainforest. Immerse yourself in nature. If you've not done so already, I would highly suggest going out in the middle of nature and just allowing yourself to breathe. I see you. Savvy sailing, sustainable sailing practices that date back a few hundred years. And let's not forget diving tourism. Aquanauts Grenada has several conservation initiatives, reef cleanups, collaborations with reef.org, Blue Oceans, lionfish hunting, and taco night at the brewery, and as well as True Blue Bay Resort, who we got to hear from earlier on, with their community cleanups and their green initiatives. Environmental conservation in coastal regions. The urgency for sustainable alternatives in coastal regions cannot be overstated. Purposeful tourism plays a vital role in preserving natural wonders, promoting responsible travel, and supporting local communities. Emotional connections and shared experiences are pivotal in preserving cultural heritage and tradition through purposeful travel. By highlighting positive impacts on local communities and fostering global collaboration, purposeful tourism really inspires meaningful change. So just also highlighting some impacts and success stories such as Dive and Conservation Festival, coastal and reef cleanups, lionfish hunting, deep sea mining symposiums, and professional development opportunities with WCS. At the center of all of this is partnership and collaboration. We have to highlight SDG number 17 because we cannot do this alone. We need to be together. This will take collective action. So empowering travelers to make sustainable choices and driving global impact are key objectives of purposeful tourism. By encouraging a collective commitment to safeguarding the planet's natural resources, purposeful travel experiences inspire true transformative change. One thing I'd like to highlight is measuring and reporting impact. You can do multiple things in the realm of conservation and climate advocacy, but if you are able to contribute your skills to citizen science projects, like if you're cleaning up a beach near your house, use the Clean Swell app. That data goes directly to Ocean Conservancy, and that helps us and future generations to understand the actual impact of marine pollution. Environmental stewardship, cultural preservation, and community empowerment are central to purposeful travel experiences. By showcasing purposeful-driven projects and emphasizing the importance of partnerships, purposeful tourism fosters a collective commitment to sustainability. Purposeful tourism isn't just about exploring new destinations. It's about leaving a positive impact wherever you go. By embracing sustainable travel practice, supporting local communities, fostering global collaboration, we can truly safeguard the planet's natural treasures for generations to come. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Let's continue to work together and make a difference on purposeful tourism.
Thank you so much, Kirpa. You know, we in North America take for granted the beautiful beaches that just exist in the Caribbean. We just expect them to be perfect and beautiful, but it's people like her who could do anything else in the world, but this is not a job for them. This is their passion, the beach cleanups, the reef restorations, the moving the sea turtle eggs. It's huge. And so I just want to say thank you, Kirpa. Okay, last and certainly not least is Therese Yard, who's Dr. Therese Yard, Senior Director of Caribbean Island Programming. She works with Conservation International, which is an environmental NGO, work in sustainable community-based tourism in Brazil and Guyana.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to the Caribbean Tourism Organization for inviting me to speak to you today and to sit on this panel of like-minded presenters on behalf of Conservation International. For this panel on purpose, it's only fitting that I begin with an introduction to Conservation International and to our organization's purpose. Conservation International, or CI, is a global nonprofit organization working around the world to protect nature. We use innovative science, informed policymaking, and respectful partnerships to achieve our goal of conserving ecosystems. And these are ecosystems that provide humanity with food and water, ecosystems that regulate our planet's climate, and ecosystems that sustain economies and livelihoods. CI's work is led by what we call our Southern Cross, and this is a strategy named after one of the most distinguishable constellations in the night sky. CI's Southern Cross consists of 4 guiding stars. 1, we protect nature, including forests, mangroves, and coral reefs for climate resilience. 2, we work to conserve our planet's oceans and promote responsible use of ocean resources. 3, we drive innovations in science and finance to promote nature-based development and to mobilize investment for nature conservation. And 4, we promote nature-positive economies. And by that we mean self-sustaining, productive economies that bring benefits for people and also for the natural world. CI's work on sustainable tourism is illuminated by the star of nature-positive economies. Our driving question for this work is, how can we create regenerative economic models in the tourism sector that contribute to nature conservation and also contribute to economic diversification, job creation, greater prosperity, and cultural preservation? That's a big ask, but CI is an organization of big ambitions. And we pride ourselves on being a global organization. We work in over 100 countries worldwide, but we also recognize that our work on tourism has to be place-based. It can't be generic. It has to be relevant and responsive to the local context, whether ecologically, socially, or culturally. I must say that CI does not have a Caribbean Islands program yet. My job with the organization is to develop that program. And in doing so, we recognize that tourism is an essential contributor to the economy of the Caribbean Islands, contributing up to 90% of GDP in some countries, as we heard yesterday. So with that in mind, one of our key areas of focus is how tourism can be an entry point for making Caribbean economies in general more nature positive. Our belief that tourism can contribute meaningfully to our conservation purpose and our sustainability ambitions is based on our experiences and our successes across the globe. And I'd like to share 2 of those successes with you this afternoon. One is from the state of Bahia in Brazil, in Abrolhos, which is an area highly dependent on tourism, a coastal area. There, CI Brazil has launched the Futuri Tourism Alliance, which is a voluntary coalition of tourism practitioners with a shared interest in tourism that is more sustainable and offers greater integration with nature. The leading criterion for membership in the Alliance is a commitment to sustainability and to continuous improvement, and a willingness to sign a pledge to this effect and to follow through on the sustainability principles in that pledge. Each member of the Alliance is guided through a self-assessment to help them understand their ranking on different dimensions of sustainability and to reveal where there are opportunities for improvement. CI then just supports this improvement by providing training and funding to help members make their tourism practice more nature-friendly and more socially inclusive. CI Brazil developed a good practice guide for sustainable tourism, provided mentorship and training to local communities to help them grow tourism enterprises, created branding and delivered marketing for the Alliance, and enhanced tourism facilities and infrastructure in protected areas. To bring all of this together, CI and our partners developed a sustainable tourism itinerary that showcases Futuri Alliance partners, from tour guides to agro-tourism businesses to ecolodges to beachside resorts to national parks. The itinerary offers visitors a conscious and immersive experience and allows them to enjoy the attractions of the itinerary with the assurance that their travel in Bahia is socially and ecologically responsible. Our second example is from Guyana, where CI Guyana played a key role in the development and growth of Visit Rupununi. And Visit Rupununi is was Guyana's first regional destination management and marketing organization. Over a decade ago, CI Guyana formulated a blueprint for sustainable community tourism in the Rupununi, and the influence of that blueprint continues to be seen in Visit Rupununi's focus on responsible, nature-friendly, community-based tourism in Southwest Guyana. And I noticed in Wayne's presentation earlier, he talked about the work on community-based tourism in the Rupununi, and that also is an offshoot and a springing out of what CI Guyana did in terms of the Visit Rupununi blueprint. Community-based tourism is essential to the Visit Rupununi ethos of inclusivity and of teamwork. And with support from CI and other partners, the indigenous peoples and the local communities of the Rupununi have developed tourism models that allow them to generate income and secure the natural environment that they depended on for generations, all the while weaving in their cultures and their traditions. Each participating community has established a distinctive tourism product under the Visit Rupununi umbrella. And because these products and services are designed by the communities themselves, they've been designed so that the tourism value chain generates benefits throughout these communities, from farmers to fishers to vaqueros or cowboys, and to practitioners of traditional arts and crafts. Some communities have actually incorporated wildlife conservation directly into their tourism offering. So visitors to the villages of Sand Creek and Yupukari in the Rupununi have the opportunity to participate in the monitoring and conservation of rare species of river turtles and caiman, respectively. And in all of the Rupununi communities under the Visit Rupununi umbrella, a strong sense of pride in who they are, where they are, and what they have to offer is always front and center. As Conservation International expands and deepens our engagement in the Caribbean islands, these are the kind of sustainable tourism successes that we intend to build on. We are keen to collaborate with the CTO and with other regional and national tourism stakeholders, and we look forward to launching programs and partnerships that unite and empower local communities to create regenerative tourism enterprises that are good for Caribbean nature and also good for Caribbean people. Thank you.
Amazing work. Thank you, Dr. Therese. Okay, I am in between you and food. So, now we come to the fun part. Sam? I need a volunteer. Let me see. Forget it. I'll just pick Charisma. Where's Charisma? Charisma, you need this mic. Now, you're getting a bag, a mystery bag. I brought it from Canada. It's Canadian hospitality. I just met this woman. Does anybody not know her? She is just a ball of passion and joy. She works at Six Senses. Her official title is Sustainability Director. Is that your title? Is your mic on? Don't look in the bag.
Okay.
Okay. I need you to repeat after me. Dear panel.
Dear panel.
How have you seen purposefulness spread in your field?
Spread in your field.
It's a great question. I'm going to direct it to Alicia. Alicia, can you tell us a quick, and we're not politicians, eh? So short, sweet, and punchy. Okay, Alicia, tell us a story about GTA's own Tennille Clark and how she ended up writing for Lonely Planet a Caribbean island guidebook. Can you do it in like a few minutes?
Yes.
Go for it.
Yeah, I commissioned the Caribbean Islands Guidebook for Lonely Planet. My biggest goal was to get as many born and bred writers in the guidebook. So often we have folks that love your country, but if you're not born there and you don't know all the good places to go. So I emailed Tennille Clark out of the blue. I had seen her social media stuff and I seen some other stuff, and I knew that she knew and loved her country of Trinidad and Tobago. I emailed her and asked if she wanted to write for the book. What she didn't know is that it was 36 pages and 3 essays, and she had never written in a book in her life. And I told her we would be fine. I'd give her any information that she needed. And she said it was one of the most difficult things she's done, but again, we're gonna draw into that purpose. She drew purpose from being able to contribute to this book. And I think also tourism doesn't necessarily only have to involve people that are traveling into your country, it's the people that live there. And it was an amazing experience. I'm really proud of her, and we're doing it again next year.
Amazing. Is Tennille even here? Well, she's missing out on herself. Okay, I need another volunteer. Oh, thank you, Petra. That's so nice of you. No, this is Petra's. That's for someone else. Okay, Petra, you need the mic. No, I'm keeping this for now. Petra doesn't get it now. Petra, please repeat after me. Dear panel. Is her mic on?
No.
What kind of friction do you encounter in your field?
Do you encounter in your field?
My God, she was paying attention when Adam Stewart was up here. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Petra. I'm going to direct this one to Magdalena. Magdalena, who does the Chocolate Festival over the last 11 years. What kind of friction do you encounter, Magdalena? And, you know, how do you propose making your Chocolate Festival frictionless?
Hello. What kind of friction? Oh my goodness me. It was very difficult to convince the farmers to actually participate in the festival because nobody had ever invited them and they didn't understood what was their role there. And we had to go and see them personally to explain to them what we were doing. And it was one of the festivals we want to award some of them for the quality of their cocoa. And they just look at us blank. And they went like, why you want to give me a prize for my job? So it was very interesting. And it was challenging because it was challenging working with them and made them understood what we were trying to achieve. Once they got their award and saw how, you know, the chocolate was processed and was all, people just loved it. They went like, oh, we actually part of this food chain. And then I think they start to understand, but it's still very difficult to work with the farmers and get them to produce, or get them to participate in any of the events because they don't understand what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sam, you want to grab that mic from Petra? Last question. I met a guy yesterday. He's got a crazy set of hair. Do you know who I'm talking about? Johan. Johan. Johan, you ready? Grab that mic. Don't look in the bag, eh? We say A in Canada. Apology. Yeah. Okay, don't look in the bag. Johan, is your mic on?
Testing. Yeah.
Okay. Dear panel.
Dear panel.
Why do you do
what
you do?
What you do.
Excellent question. Okay, here we go. We're just going to do just a three first. So let's start off with Kirpa.
Thank you for such a great question. Why I do what I do. I honestly believe that we each play a role in safeguarding not only our future, but our future generations, children, family. And I do what I do because I want there to be a planet for people to enjoy. I want my future kids to be able to go to Annandale Falls or hike in Grand Etang or go and see the sea turtles during nesting season. It's really important, and I think everyone should really care about the planet, so.
Well done.
Short and simple.
Love it. Dr. Therese?
Thanks, Michael. I'll give an answer with an anecdote. I don't work in the tourism sector, so the anecdote is not from tourism. I work in conservation and environmental management, and last year I was working in St. Lucia to deliver training to farmers on producing using less pesticides. And the farmers got together in a community. One of the farmers allowed them to use his land. They came together every week for 12 weeks to grow a crop of cabbages with no pesticides, produce some of the most beautiful cabbages I've ever seen. We're then able to sell it to a tourism resort close to the community. And then after that, one of the farmers said he was able to take what he'd learned from that cabbage production farmer field school and apply it to his sorrel crop. This was just before Christmas. So you know sorrel crops are important at that time of year. And he said it was the first time in his 40+ years of farming that he'd been able to use a method that meant that he did not lose a single sorrel tree from his crop. And that's why I do what I do.
Kitaka, finish strong, finish strong.
Before I start though, I want everyone to put their hands together for our moderator. Full of vibes. Why do I do what I do? Very simply, to touch lives and to have great social impact. I have seen our culture evolve over time where we have become very individualistic. We want the money, we want the fame, we want the success, we want to climb the mountain alone. And sometimes we forget, the people around us. So let's say what really brings joy to me is when, let's say, someone reaches out and says, the piece of content you created made me happy. It helped me with my depression. It expanded my consciousness and my mind and the way I look at things. And it really pushed and nudged me to live and to express my life more authentically and to be a better person. At the end of the day, for me, nothing beats that. Not money in the bank, not fame, not any accolade that can be given by any organization.
I noticed that our future walked in, but before we get to them, let me finish. Why did I want you guys not to know what was in these bags? I said at the beginning that you draw tourists through those emotions, those higher emotions of peace, rapturous joy, and higher love. Peace, you're not going to get it here because you need quiet. Peace requires quiet, so get it later this week when you go home. Rapturous joy and higher love. Unconditioned, non-judgmental love. That's what we're about to experience. So I'm doing this little game here. I'm hoping it works. Okay, what is in the bag? Let's take a look. You guys can open your bags too. Okay, we've got, what did I bring from Canada? A bag of ketchup chips. Very hard to come by the way. Sweet and savory. That's about $5. We've got maple cookies. And Petra, this is your bag, don't worry. Okay, so we got salt, we got sugar. What else we got? Customs wouldn't let me bring it in. Maple syrup, 100% pure. Now, fun fact, 40 liters of sap to make 1 liter of pure Canadian maple syrup, okay? And last but certainly not least, for those who like alcohol, I'm not a drinker. Niagara Falls award-winning ice wine, serve it chilled, and drink a little bit of it. Now, why am I showing you this? And by the way, I would pick the chips because I don't eat sugar and I don't drink alcohol. But can somebody give this to Petra? The joy of the surprise. Now the Petra? No, don't give it to her now. Let's go. I'm waiting. Now, Charisma, Johan, and Petra, these 3 individuals I cherry-picked because they're so passionate about what they do. You just have to talk to them, okay? A lot of people here are here because of Petra. And yeah, the 1 or 2 said, if I don't come here, she'll kill me. But she's amazing. And Johan is bringing the youth. Thank you. Thank you, Petra. Talk to Johan about what he's doing with youth and environmental sustainability. And if you get a chance to meet Charisma, oh my gosh. She works at Six Senses, but that's, I don't know. She's amazing about everything. Okay. Peace, joy, and higher love. This is what I want you to do. I want you to be selfish. Look inside the bag, you three, and pick something for yourself. We're not going to judge, right? Everybody put your pinky in the air. We're doing a pinky swear. Pinky swear. We're not judging. Whatever they pick. We don't care. It doesn't matter. And now, if you want, you don't have to. You can pass the bag to somebody else to get a different gift. Now, here's the thing. Every one of those items is shareable. As you have freely received, freely give. And I'm going to end by saying this. People say, Michael, why you love Grenada so much? You're here like 2 months a year, you're doing all your charity projects. Who are you doing it for? Me. I'm so selfish. I love that guy. I come here. I found myself here. And if Grenada can do that for me, the Caribbean can do that for the world. And I'm going to call on Amanda. No? Somebody else? Curl? Curl's going to come up and tell us why all these beautiful faces are here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's really proud moment for us all here. As part of this Sustainable Tourism Conference, we had a youth component. Of course, we know that the youth are our future, and so we absolutely needed them to be part of this. So they actually have a youth sustainable display upstairs, and it was part of a competition for the primary and secondary school students. So kids from 5 to 17. We even had one of the schools of special education actually put a piece as well. Phenomenal stuff. So, you know, the girls and boys here today, they shared all their creativity in terms of the 5 Ps, what that means to them and what they see for future, for vision, for them and for us. While we will depart at some point in time in our lives, they will, of course, take over and their future generations. So please give them a loud round of applause. And if you have not taken a peek, please take the time to check out their little display. We will be very much grateful. Thank you so very much, and thank you to all the parents and students. Oh, yes, of course, the location would be good, right? It's upstairs, the St. Andrew's room, so when you get out the door, you go up some stairs. Thank you so very much once again.
Well, ladies and gents, let's give another round of applause to our kids here. Please go and support them by taking a look at what they have to offer. One of the things that CTO believes strongly in when we do our events is to always have some sort of a youth component. And we were really glad when GTA said, well, we can certainly do that. We have some wonderful young people who are doing wonderful things, and we can share that with you during the conference. So we want to thank them. And we also want to say a huge thank you to our panel on purpose and our moderator today. Please give them another round of applause and thank them for very much the insightful information that they've shared. Now, Michael said he was between you and lunch. We would have had another session now, but we do recognize that you have taken in a lot this morning. It has been a lot, hasn't it? But it's been great stuff. So I'm going to give you an opportunity during lunch to just let some of that sit and simmer, you know? You can have your discussions over lunch, and then we're going to come back and we're going to tackle our final P, the P of partnership. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going off to lunch in the restaurant. Just a quick notice. We want our ministers, there's a designated area for lunch for our ministers our ministers, for our ministers, directors, senior government officials, heads of delegations for CTO member countries, and partner organizations. Okay, so once you get over to the lunchroom, there should be someone to show you where that special seating is. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have a wonderful lunch. It is now 1:30. Please, can we start promptly at 2:30? But it's 1:30, right? 1:30? 2:30 prompt start. Hello, excuse me. Some money was found in the female bathroom. If there's anyone that's lost money, misplaced money, could you come see me, please? You have to tell me how much it is first. No, I said, what were you doing in the female bathroom? Please come see me.